My name is Thelma Forrest, Thelma Van Forrest. I'm a Van from Chewey, Oklahoma.
What were your parents' names?
Pete Van and Nanny Gibson. I had 4 sisters, 3 brothers, and myself. We never really had any like store-bought games. We just usually played with the animals. And we had a horse and a dog and lots of dogs. And we had a horse named Ribbon. It was really my oldest sister's, but she would let us ride it. Both my brothers were younger than me, and so they would get on the horse, and I had to sit on a cow. We had Bossy the cow, and they would let me sit on it, and that was my horse. So we'd be out in the yard and we'd play with the animals. I think we even tried to ride the hogs sometime, but they wouldn't let us. We just entertained ourselves by what was at home, fishing. We went fishing a lot, and they would let me go if I go get the worms. I have to dig the worms, and I have to catch the grasshoppers out in the yard, the garden, and then I'd have to make lunch. After breakfast, I'd do all of the biscuits left over, make egg sandwiches and cook bacon or whatever we had. And then I had to carry everything. We'd go down to the river. We lived right by Illinois River. So then we got to go, and our grandma would let us go. She didn't worry about us. We were young. I mean like 5, 6, 7. And we would go down there, and I had to carry everything, or they wasn't gonna let me go. As we were fishing going down the river, I'd lose the food, and then I'd have to spend all morning hunting it. And then when I found it had ants all over it, and I'd dust the ants off, and we'd stay down at the river all day. We'd go out and get a big old log that would float. We didn't have floaters then, so we'd float around on a log. Once in a while, we had a neighbor family that had a lot of kids too, and they would come over and we'd play softball. We didn't have pets, so we tried to. One time I found some bird eggs, I thought, and our uncle made a little box, and he put them in there, and so we'd watch them day and night too. And then all at once someone said, "Oh, come, they're opening up. And we saw a little nose coming out, and they were snakes. We went out and let them go wherever they went. My grandma spoke Cherokee, and my uncle spoke it. They were the grown-ups in the house, it was her brother. But she never offered to teach us Cherokee. And I remember during that time with our grandma, we got electric, and we thought that was great. And so we'd be turning the lights off and on, and then we got a refrigerator. We lined up and we sat at the refrigerator waiting for the ice to freeze. So then we would put it in our cups and then we would eat it. We had the creamer where when you milk the cow, the creamer separator. We did that because my grandma sold cream at Westfield. We had a radio that had a big, big battery at that time. Well, a long time ago, they were huge. And other than that, we did not have a whole lot. We could sleep out on the porch. We took our blanket and went out there, and I used to say there was a dog and a kid and a dog and a kid and a dog and a kid out on the porch. And we would sleep out there because we never had a fan or air conditioner. We just have to roll up the windows, and it was just not a real big house. All the guys had one room, and all the ladies, women slept in the front room, and there was most of us. And then we had one whole room to eat in. And if my uncle, we would watch how he would eat. And he would do these brown beans, boy, he'd polish papers. Then he'd mash them and mash them. And then he'd put about 4 or 5 big old tablespoons of grease. Oh, and we mashed it. So then it came our time, we would do it. We would just mashing the beans. We had squirrels. Somehow the men were supposed to eat the head or the brains or something, but we knew, no, it's supposed to give them, I don't know, it was supposed to help them do something, but be braver or smarter or something like that. Well, the first school I went to was Holiday. It was right down from my granny's house, probably about 1/4 of a mile, but I thought it was 4 miles. And so all the big kids went, all my sisters who were older than me, and I would go, but I was not old enough. Every morning he'd put me on the blackboard. He'd say, "Thelma, this is because I'd want a lesson, I wanted, everybody else got lessons, so he'd park me at the blackboard, and my duty for the day was I was to clean the erasers and And I was right. Then he would have me write the ABCs that were around, back then they were around the top of the room. Mm-hmm. And so when I was just real little, and I learned my ABCs, both cursive and the other, and my numbers. He kept me busy doing that. The second school that I went to was Wyandotte, Seneca, Oklahoma. So that was far away. That was the first one I went away from home. My grandma, I guess it was just with like 10 people she was having to feed, was just too much. I'll never forget. And we all got into this big truck. We all lined up, there were seats in there, and we all went to Seneca. Well, I'd never been away from home, so I guess I cried a lot. And so because I knew my numbers already, they would let me out, and I would wander around the school, and they gave me a pair of skates. So I learned to skate, and I would skate around up there, and so I sort of liked it. I mean, it was a nice place. And the dining room lady used to give me a treat. She would give me strawberries and cream, real cream. And I remember, and the maintenance man, when my skates would get rickety, Mr. Crittenden from Hulbert, he would say, "Stop, let me look at your skates," and he'd fix my skates. But they used to line you up and give you cod liver oil. And they had this big old spoon. They'd fill it up, and each kid had a spoon. And they didn't even change the spoon. If you did something, talked too much, which I think I did, they would have us shine the dining room floor with big old pieces of cloth. A bunch of us, just like a little army, we'd be in there shining the floors. They didn't whip us or anything. I never, some people had a bad time, and other than being lonesome and crying a lot, I do not remember anything bad. Taking the cod liver oil was a little bit, but all of us ended up at Oaks Mission, and that's where I stayed most of my life. I had a library at Oaks, and there wasn't a whole lot to do there, so I like to read. And Reverend Vaughman, he was the pastor of the home. He would always say, "Now I want you all to get a good education so that when you leave here, you and your family will have a good home, place to live." Education was a real big thing. I learned that there. And if you look back at it, we had a cook and a laundry person and a matron that kept the house. And someone said, "Well, y'all just live the life of Riley." And we said, "Well, it looks like it. But then when you get out, you don't know how to do your laundry, Our chores were, we had our room, and sometimes it got so crowded that there was like 3 or 4 people in it's just supposed to be 2 people. But it didn't last very long. They would be moving people around. And we had our bed and our drawer. And if there was just 2 people, then we had the whole dresser drawer. But if there was just 4, then we had maybe 1 drawer, I wanted to tell you about the bell in the dining room. They had a little bell. I know you've seen one, a little silver bell, and you tap it on the top. We go to eat, and you stand behind your chair, and somebody taps that bell whether you sit down. And then somebody says the prayer, tap the bell, say the prayer, tap the bell, eat. So, and to this day, when I hear that little tap, I go, "Oh!" It kind of, what? When I first went to Oaks, living at home and living at Oaks was 2 different things. When you went home to Grandma, you could sleep outside on the porch with your quilt and your dog if you wanted to. But Oaks, it was different. You had to brush your teeth. You had to take that bath every morning. It was a whole different thing. So when I'd go home, one time I asked my grandma, I said, "Granny, can we have some toothpaste?" She said, "What? What? What are you going to do with toothpaste? Get some of that salted soda. That's toothpaste." I said, "Okay." But you learn to live in 2 different worlds.